"Mr. Lewis, you are a complete nut." Those words would prove more prophetic than anyone could have imagined. After Jerry Lewis died, his sons revealed the chilling truth about their father, a truth that would shatter the carefully constructed image of America's beloved comedian. In certain circles, they say comedy as we know it wouldn't exist without Jerry Lewis. He walked so that the comedians we love today could run. However, the king of comedy's life was far from the squeaky clean image he projected to the world. Behind the pratfalls and the laughter, Jerry Lewis harbored dark secrets that would eventually tear his family apart. The making of a star. Picture this. March 16, 1926. A child is born to two Jewish immigrants in a world that would soon discover his gift for making people laugh. His father, Danny Levitch, had journeyed from the Russian Empire to chase the American dream through vaudeville. His mother, Rachel, brought her musical talents from Warsaw, her fingers dancing across piano keys with the grace of someone who understood the power of performance. Young Jerry, born Joseph Levitch, seemed destined for the spotlight from his earliest days. As a teenager, he was already displaying that impulsive sense of humor that would define his career. His pranks were legendary, his troublemaking mostly harmless, but there was something electric about his presence that couldn't be ignored. By 15, he had crafted what he called his record act, a simple but brilliant gimmick where he would mime singing while a record played off stage. It was pure theater, pure illusion, and it landed him his first real gig in Buffalo. But success proved elusive, the act didn't sell, and bookings dried up faster than applause after a failed joke. For most performers, this would have been the end. Jerry Lewis seemed ready to surrender his dreams, taking on a series of mundane jobs to survive, selling soda, ushering theatergoers to their seats in the very venues where he longed to perform. It was a cruel irony that wasn't lost on the young man. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. The partnership that changed everything. Enter Max Coleman, a friend of Jerry's father from the old vaudeville days. Coleman saw something in the defeated young performer that Jerry couldn't see in himself. He convinced Lewis to give entertainment one more chance, and soon Jerry found himself performing in the Borscht Belt, those magical resorts in the Catskills where Jewish vacationers came to laugh away their troubles. It was here that Irving Kay spotted Jerry's act and became his manager. But more importantly, it was here that Jerry began to truly understand the power he wielded over an audience. While other young men of the 1940s found their lives disrupted by World War, Jerry Lewis received an unexpected gift from fate, a heart murmur that kept him out of military service. This twist of destiny allowed him to meet and fall in love with Patty Palmer, a singer whose voice complemented his comedy perfectly. They married on October 3, 1944, adopting their first son in 1949 before welcoming 5 biological children throughout the 50s. From the outside, it appeared to be the perfect showbusiness marriage. But as Jerry's star began its meteoric rise, the tensions at home would grow in equal measure. 1 year after his marriage, at just 19 years old, Jerry was performing at the Glass Hat Club in New York City when destiny walked through the door in the form of Dean Martin. Martin was 27, still searching for his breakthrough as a singer, still hungry for the success that seemed to dance just beyond his grasp. It would take 2 more years before these two forces of nature would share a stage for the first time. The venue was the 500 Club in Atlantic City. When another performer became unavailable, Jerry suggested that Dean fill in. Anyone familiar with classic comedy knows that Lewis and Martin would eventually become one of the most dynamic duos in entertainment history. But in those early days, magic was the last thing anyone would have called their act. They were so spectacularly bad that Skinny D'Amato, owner of the 500 Club, threatened to throw them out if they didn't dramatically improve their performance. Martin and Lewis were drowning, and they needed to find something revolutionary or watch their careers sink before they truly began. What happened next was nothing short of miraculous. The birth of magic. Instead of relying on pre-written material, Jerry and Dean discovered their true power lay in improvisation. Jerry would interrupt Dean's singing, creating chaos that somehow transformed into comedy gold. The audience didn't just enjoy it, they were mesmerized by it. Once they found their formula, Martin and Lewis became an unstoppable force. They toured the Eastern Seaboard, building to triumphant appearances at New York's famous Copacabana Club. In 1948, NBC signed them for the Martin and Lewis Show, which dominated radio until 1953. That same year, Ed Sullivan was launching his legendary variety show, Toast of the Town. Martin and Lewis appeared in the very first episode, establishing a relationship with variety television that would define the medium for years to come. But while they conquered radio and made television appearances, it was Hollywood that would transform them from performers into legends. Hollywood glory in hidden darkness. Paramount Pictures signed Martin and Lewis in 1949, casting them in My Friend Irma alongside Marie Wilson and Diana Lynn. While they were hired as comedic relief, the film revealed to the world the extraordinary chemistry these two men possessed on the big screen. Between 1950 and 1956, they would create 14 films together, each one cementing their status as Hollywood royalty. But success, as Jerry would learn, came with unexpected challenges. In 1950, a young actor named Sammy Petrillo was trying to follow in his theatrical parents' footsteps. Petrillo was 8 years younger than Jerry Lewis and bore such a striking resemblance to him that it made Jerry deeply uncomfortable. Lewis saw Petrillo not as flattery, but as competition he was determined to eliminate. Jerry hired Petrillo for a small role in a sketch, but the meeting revealed a side of Lewis that few people ever saw. Petrillo later described Jerry as abrasive and manipulative. Though initially hesitant, Petrillo was persuaded to sign with MCA, Jerry's talent agency. It was a trap. Jerry promised Petrillo work that never materialized. He wasn't helping the young actor, he was keeping him inactive, ensuring that Petrillo would never find success and never threaten Jerry's career. When Petrillo's father helped him escape the contract, Jerry's response was swift and vicious. He used his considerable influence to blackball Petrillo and his partner Duke Mitchell whenever possible, demonstrating a ruthlessness that would become a recurring pattern throughout his life. The end of an era. By spring of 1956, the magic between Martin and Lewis was dying. As their fame grew, the spotlight increasingly focused on Jerry, leaving Dean feeling like a forgotten sidekick. Critics and media constantly praised Lewis as the talented one, implying that Martin was simply along for the ride. The breaking point came in 1954 when Look magazine published a cover photo that had originally included both men but cropped Dean out entirely. It was a symbolic severing that reflected the reality of their professional relationship. Their final film together, Hollywood or Bust, was a miserable experience for both men. After completing their remaining obligations at the Copacabana Club, exactly 10 years after they'd first teamed up, Martin and Lewis performed together for the last time. Jerry Lewis was suddenly, devastatingly alone. Solo success and personal destruction. For many rising stars, this would have been their moment to shine. But Jerry Lewis, who had spent a decade building his career alongside Dean Martin, found himself paralyzed by self-doubt. His confidence, so essential to his comedic timing, had evaporated. Salvation came from an unexpected source. While vacationing in Las Vegas with his wife, Jerry received a call from Sid Luft, Judy Garland's manager and husband. Garland had strep throat and couldn't perform. Luft wanted Jerry to save the day by stepping into her shoes. The performance was a revelation. The crowd's response was rapturous, giving Jerry the confidence he needed to continue as a solo act. This Vegas performance led to a record deal and launched a new phase of his career focused on solo live performances that would become his signature. Jerry proved he didn't need Dean Martin. He hosted the Academy Awards 3 times between 1956 and 1959. He remained at Paramount and began starring in films solo, eventually signing a 1959 contract that not only gave him unprecedented creative control but made him the highest-paid performer in Hollywood history. Revolutionary filmmaking. In 1960, Paramount's decision to delay Cinderfella created an opportunity that would change filmmaking forever. Needing a quick replacement, Jerry created The Bellboy, which he starred in, directed, co-wrote, and produced. The filming schedule was brutal. Jerry was filming during the day and performing at night. To save time, he created what was essentially a silent movie, focusing on physical comedy rather than dialogue-heavy scenes. But his real innovation was the use of monitors to instantly review scenes, eliminating the wait for dailies. When Paramount balked at backing what they saw as an experimental film, Jerry financed it himself. The Bellboy became one of his most popular and financially successful films, proving that Jerry Lewis was not just a performer, but a visionary. The price of fame, but success in Hollywood couldn't mask the destruction Jerry was causing in his personal life. Despite never hiding his infidelities, he remained married to Patty for nearly 40 years until she finally filed for divorce in 1980. Sandra Pitnick was a flight attendant and professionally trained ballerina who earned a small dancing role in Jerry's film Hardly Working. While Patty was filing for divorce, Jerry was already building his next relationship. He and Sandra married in February 1983, adopting a daughter in the early 90s. Jerry never looked back at his first family, not even when it became clear his time was running short. The final act, Jerry suffered his first heart attack in 1960 at just 34 years old. He survived 2 more in 1982 and 2006. When he finally succumbed to heart problems in 2017, it was surprising he had made it to 91 at all. Jerry's death unleashed both praise and scrutiny, particularly from his family. In his final act of cruelty, he cut every single one of his 6 sons and their families out of his will, leaving money only to Sandra and their adopted daughter. Following Jerry's death, his sons revealed the truth about their father. Anthony, the youngest, described him as unpredictable and emotionally abusive, saying they never knew which version of their father would come home. Gary, his elder brother, had even harsher words, calling Jerry a mean and evil person who never showed his children any love. In 2022, Vanity Fair reported that several of Jerry's female co-stars from the 1960s came forward with allegations of harassment, verbal abuse, and sexual assault. The complex legacy. Despite the controversy surrounding Jerry Lewis' character, his impact on comedy is undeniable. Before him, comedy was a much stiffer affair. Jerry was unafraid to be bold, to take risks, and most importantly, to laugh at himself. Many comedians we know and love today, Steve Martin, Richard Pryor, Jim Carrey, owe their start to Lewis' revolutionary approach. Jim Carrey, upon hearing of Jerry's death, stated that through his comedy, Jerry would stretch the boundaries of reality so far that it was an act of anarchy. Jerry Lewis walked so that future comedians could run. But the path he carved was littered with broken relationships, destroyed careers, and the wreckage of a family that never received the love they deserved from the man who made the world laugh. In the end, Jerry Lewis was exactly what that critic called him all those years ago, a complete nut. The tragedy is that his genius and his cruelty were so inextricably linked that we can never separate the man from the monster, the comedy from the pain, the laughter from the tears. Sometimes the people who make us laugh the hardest are the ones crying the most behind the mask. Jerry Lewis made the world smile, but in doing so, he forgot how to love the people who mattered most.